As animal liberationists, we believe that all animals deserve to be free and that the exploitation of animals is connected to the exploitation of humans and the earth. This video will look at how ideas of ownership and the capitalist system perpetuate the exploitation of animals and that it is in the interest of the state to support this exploitative system. Capitalism functions on the idea that everyone and everything, humans, animals, and the environment, should be exploited in the name of bottom-line profits. It is the same mindset that allows humans to work in sweatshops, that keeps animals in cages, and that allows corporations to ravage the earth. It is a mindset that says it is acceptable for corporations to use and dominate others. Politicians need corporate backing to gain political power, and in return, politicians provide corporations financial and legal support. For example, state-sponsored financial backing is given to the meat industry in the form of subsidies. Few laws protect animals from suffering, and exploitation industries are legally enabled to use cheap, inhumane, and cruel methods to house and kill the animals that are their property. The state also passes laws that make it more difficult for activists to stop exploitation industries. This financial and legal aid guarantees profits for corporations and the politicians that support them. Law enforcement is used to uphold this support, and police are used to monitor and stop animal activism. Because of financial incentive, it is in the interest of the state to support the corporations who exploit animals. The corporate state we live in turns everyone and everything into a commodity. But we also need to see that as long as we live in a state that protects the property system, we will not see a world in which all animals are free. To look at this in more detail, we have modified the Inalienable Tenets of Anarchism by British anarchist Albert Meltzer. All animals are born free. The rights of all animals, human and non-human, are inalienable. Like the animals that lived before us, the eagles, the salmon, and the first humans were born free, we are also born free. Since the rights of animals are inalienable, and these rights include the right to freedom and happiness, any structural duty imposed upon anyone is nothing more than a lie to maintain privilege. The slaughterhouse, religion, submission to authorities, or any other duty are imposed on the beings they imprison, and so are not valid. If animals are born free, slavery is murder. Nobody is fit to rule anybody else. There are no super people, privileged classes, or privileged species who are capable or entitled to rule the rest. No human has the right to enslave another human, and no human has the right to enslave an individual of another species. Enslavement to a ruling class is the loss of a free life. If slavery is murder, property is theft. The fact that people cannot live free means that their freedom has been stolen from them, either by force, as in colonization, or by fraud, as in a law that states animals are property. When freedom is stolen, someone or something a person should have access to becomes the property of another. For example, in slavery, a person becomes the possession of someone else. And in the possession of land, a person takes for himself earth that is meant for every living thing. The principle of ownership remains at the bottom of inequality. Patriarchy means rule by the father, and more generally refers to a social situation where men are dominant over women in wealth, status, and power. Historically, women and children have been considered the property of their husbands or fathers, and ownership of women transferred from the father to the husband through marriage. Because women and children are considered the property of men, they have been denied their full rights to live as free individuals. Patriarchy is tied to the domination of animals and the earth. At the same point in history in which women and children were dominated by the heads of the household, the earth and animals became the property of those who chose to control nature and all the beings within it. This represents a fundamental shift in thinking, in which men began to demand ownership over women, animals, and the earth. The capitalist system thrives on ownership, domination, and control. To gain a better sense of why property is theft, let us look at this system in more detail. At its most basic form, capitalism is a system consisting of property owners and laborers. Property owners own the means of production. They own the machines, raw materials, and other items needed to produce things of value. Laborers, on the other hand, do not own the means of production, and so, in order to survive, they must sell their labor to the property owners. The property owner tries to make capital or increased wealth. To increase profits, property owners make the smallest investments possible to produce items sold at the highest possible price. The labor is exploited by the property owner because they produce value that they do not receive. For example, a property owner may sell a shoe for $100. The cost to make that shoe would consist of things like the materials needed to make the shoe and the cost to run the factory, as well as the wage paid to the human labor who makes the shoe. If the production costs are $5, then the value of the human labor to create the shoe is $95. However, in order to make a profit, the laborers are paid less than the value they create. In this example, if a laborer was paid $1 to make the shoe, that means that $94 was stolen from them by the property owner. Those who work for capitalists do not share in the fruits of their labor, their property. That is why property is theft. Like human laborers, non-human animals are exploited for profit. From living machines that produce milk and eggs to machines used as physical laborers or entertainers, animals are confined to lives of exploitation. Even in death, as in the case of meat, fur, or leather, their bodies provide profit. And like slaves, animals are considered the property of another. The theft is compounded because animals cannot choose to work but are forced to turn a total profit for their species' masters. While value is stolen from the human laborers, as in the case of slavery, it is their very life that is stolen. As we stated before, the principle of ownership remains at the bottom of inequality, and so property is theft, whether through capitalism, patriarchy, or slavery. If property is theft, government is tyranny. If we accept the principle that all animals are born free, and that the accumulation of property is theft, we must abolish all hierarchies and dominant classes. Animals are free to interact in the ways they choose. Humans may develop collective communities based on direct democracy. Wolves may develop packs, and minks may choose to live in solitude. In such a world, the state becomes unnecessary because the state merely protects privilege and hierarchy. If the state is retained, unnecessary government becomes tyranny, since the government has no other way to maintain its hold. If government is tyranny, anarchy is liberty. Those who use the word anarchy to mean disorder or misrule are not incorrect. If they think government is necessary, if they think we cannot live without elites directing our affairs, if they think politicians are essential to our well-being, and that we cannot behave socially without police, they are right in assuming that anarchy means the opposite to what government guarantees. But those who accept that the state maintains a system of privilege, exploitation, and slavery, and violates all animals' inherent right to be free, for those who consider government to be tyranny, then the abolishment of the state, or anarchy, is liberty. If government is the maintenance of privilege and exploitation and inefficiency of distribution, then anarchy is order. It is through this analysis that we can see that animal liberation is anarchist in nature. If we believe that all animals should be free, we must accept that the state is used to enslave humans, animals, and the earth. If we are serious about liberation, we must stop the state-sponsored capitalist system that seeks to transform everyone and everything into a commodity. Only through a complete restructuring of our society will we see a world in which all animals are free. For more information, we suggest the following resources.